So welcome everyone, a warm welcome to you on a cold day. I think it was 21 degrees here in the DC area in Silver Spring, Maryland here. And we just got a little bit of snow. We dodged the main one, and then folks, probably some of you maybe further north, New York and Massachusetts got a whole lot of snow, and I hope everyone is doing well in the storm and the passing of the storm. And welcome to all of you. I'm Hugh Byrne, and I'm a teacher with the Insight Meditation Community of Washington, IMCW, and with the Center for Mindful Living, which is a part of IMCW, and it does a lot of our own kind of programs, and we'll hear more about the center at the end and the activities and the announcements. And so I want to just warmly welcome everyone, whoever you are, wherever you are. Know that our intention is to welcome you and welcome all who are interested and curious and in these teachings, in these practices, in this path of waking up, of living more wisely, more kindly in the world, in our troubled world. And a couple of things before we kind of formally get started today. I want to say, just in terms of the format, what I'd like to do is to we'll begin as we've been doing with a meditation, and then I'll share a talk. But I'll try and be as compact as possible in terms of the talk. Sometimes it can go on quite a long time and be somewhat open-ended, and I want to be a little bit more diligent in relation to that today and in the time ahead, so that we'll have more time and perhaps a longer time for hopefully a second meditation and some time for sharing those kind of the main pieces and some movement that Emily will lead us in. So just to have that as the intention today in terms of the format, and in terms more of the content, I know last week I think was a very rich sharing. I had a chance to talk to Regina, who taught the class last week, and she was very moved, and I sense folks here were very moved, as people have been, really, in so many different places and so many different ways about the life and now the death and passing of Thich Nhat Hanh, a great, I see as a great Bodhisattva, a great teacher, and I want to excuse me. I want to continue in that spirit today, not in the same format as last week, but very much continue to hold Thich Nhat Hanh, Thay, as he's known, a teacher by his followers, for our session today, for our class today. When a great teacher like Thich Nhat Hanh passes on from this realm, I think it really behooves us to take the time to kind of recognize. I think Regina, when we were talking afterwards, compared it to maybe others have done this as well, to a great tree falling in the forest, a great redwood tree or a great oak tree, coming, its time has come, and it falls, and and what's lovely is that that's very much part of the kind of the Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings of interconnection, of interbeing. That the tree falls and dies, and in its existing form it changes, but it still continues to nourish and be transformed, and its form changes, but nothing really ends. Nothing ends when the tree dies. It's not like, oh, the tree is dead and boom. It's like the tree goes on, and very much that's at the core of his teachings. And so I want to kind of continue to invite in that spirit and those reflections of his life today, and I'll do it in the talk and incorporate it into the meditation, and obviously invite it, in terms of our sharing as well today. So again, welcome to all of you. I think it'd be nice to begin by just pausing, and we'll go into the meditation, just checking in with yourself. You can close your eyes if you'd like. Just let the attention come inward. Take some moments to settle, make any adjustments in your posture, so you can be as comfortable as you can right now. You might invite your attention down into your body, just feeling the body touching your chair or the surface beneath you, your feet touching the floor. Just feel yourself in the space you are, perhaps the air on your face and the clothes touching your skin. Just begin by opening to what's present for you right now in your body, in your heart, in your mind. Just inviting a kind, receptive awareness to what's present right now. If it's helpful, just letting the breath deepen and just inviting a deeper, perhaps settling into being here. Breathing in, I calm the body. Breathing out, I calm the mind. Breathing in, I invite my heart to open. Breathing out, I send peace and loving kindness out into the world. And if you'd like to, you might invite a smile to your face. It's letting the posture of a smile, the expression of a smile help perhaps open your heart, help you settle and arrive for what Thich Nhat Hanh called your appointment with life. Your appointment with life. This moment. We only ever have moments. This moment and this moment. How will we meet this moment? Breathing in, you might invite the smile into your own heart. And breathing out, you might send the smile out to all of us here today. And then outward into the world, out to all beings. You might take some moments to just invite a reflection on gratitude. Things, people, conditions in your life that you are thankful for. That you can receive and that you receive with gratitude, with appreciation. So easy to take things for granted and focus on what we lack, what we need, what we don't have, or what's wrong. Just the power, there's a power in just shifting the attention to what we have. The people in our lives and the situations that maybe are supportive of us, that make life a little more easy or more loving, or supported. This earth that we easily take for granted, sometimes see as separate from us, and out there, and we're here. Just reflecting and remembering on how we're as much a part of this earth and this life as the flowers and the trees and the deer and the mountains and the seas. It's maybe feeling that sense of connection with life. You might reflect on this gift, this refuge, jewel of Sangha, of community, what that might mean to you. Being together in community, which the Buddha said was all of the spiritual life, is Sangha, is community. And these teachings of wisdom and compassion, how they perhaps help us live more wisely and kindly in the world. And the teachers, Thich Nhat Hanh, all the teachers going back to the Buddha, and all of the teachers and teachings and the great wisdom traditions, how they support us and help show us how we can live kindly, wisely in the world. This is from Thich Nhat Hanh. If we are peaceful, if we are happy, we can blossom like a flower, and everyone in our family, our entire society, will benefit from our peace. If we're peaceful, everyone in our family, in our entire society will benefit from our peace. Just inviting a kind, receptive awareness to your experience, just as it's unfolding right now. Whatever you're aware of, see if you can make space for it. If we can make space for whatever comes up, the painful thoughts, the difficult emotions, challenging memories, if we can make space for all of this, then our struggle with the world will be lessened and ultimately can be ended. We can just make space for what's here right now in the body, the mind, the heart. If it's helpful, letting the breath be an anchor for your attention. It's a kind of place where you can rest, and when you're aware of your breath, you know you're here. Breathing in, knowing that you're breathing in. Breathing out, knowing that you're breathing out. when the mind goes off into plans and memories, daydreams, thoughts, just gets kind of pulled away by habitual tendencies of the mind, that we've cultivated in the past, kind of that show up in the present. The mind, we worry about something, or we start fixating on things that have happened or haven't happened. When we notice that, we can just gently, kindly come back to the breath, come back to the body, come back to our appointment with ourselves, with our life. There's nothing wrong with thinking. Thinking is incredibly valuable. But much of our thought, we are disconnected from ourselves and from this moment. And when we're suffering, we're separate from ourselves. We're in the future, we're in the past, we're angry, or we're worried, or we're craving. We're kind of in an altered reality. We're not here for ourselves and our life. But all we need to do is just make space for what is here. Just allow what's here to be here, to come and to go. Just letting it come, letting it be, letting it go. Welcoming the guests. Making space for whatever is showing up. From a place of awareness. The awareness can hold whatever is here. But much of the time, we fixate and we narrow on a particular thing. This situation, or this person, or this thing I need to have. And then we lose that awareness. But then just the seeing is enough, just to be aware. And then we come back. So nothing is left out. And we incline the mind to what is most helpful, what serves well-being and happiness and freedom. The kind, non-judging awareness of our experience. finish with this short poem from Li Po, a Chinese poet from the 8th century. The birds have vanished into the sky, and now the last cloud drains away. We sit together, the mountain and me, until only the mountain remains. We sit together, the mountain and me, until only the mountain remains. Taking your time coming back, and just a funny thing, I was just checking this lovely book. One of my favorite books of poetry is the Enlightened Heart, an anthology of sacred poetry edited by Stephen Mitchell. And in the back I looked up that poet, Li Po. We sit together, the mountain and me, until only the mountain remains. And it says, legend has it that he drowned after drunkenly leaning out of a boat to embrace the moon's reflection. That's a lovely story. Don't do this yourself. Don't do this at home. Lean out to reach them. It's kind of, it has a Zen quality to it, that drunkenly reaching out to grasp the reflection of the moon and drowning. Right. So again, Cassie says, sounds kind of like Percy Shelley. I have to remind us on his.
Shelley died in a storm out on a boat because he wanted to go out and experience nature.
I knew he drowned. Oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah. So he was a bit of a Zen poet. He was certainly a poet. Anyway, well, thank you for that. And yeah, thank you, everyone. Welcome again. I think what I'd like to do for the reflection for the talk today is really just reflect a little on, on the passage, on the passing of a Bodhisattva, Thich Nhat Hanh, and I don't know how many of you had this experience, and but my own experience with Thich Nhat Hanh is I think I went to see him first maybe almost 30 years ago at the National Cathedral, and I've been reading his books, and I've loved him as a teacher. I haven't been a practitioner in his Sangha, but specifically, but have, like many of us, the world over, been really affected by his teachings. And but even with all of that, I've been surprised at the power of his passing has had, on me and on my heart. It's like, obviously we would recognize the passing of a great teacher, and remember her or him, them. But there's a way in which I just feel very much, I just feel more and more kind of his being, his spirit, his teaching, very much permeating me and also many others that I know, so that there's some element of surprise in that, of just how powerful his his passing is, and obviously recognizing that, as he said so often and taught so often, that there's death isn't an ending. Death isn't an ending, and yet there is something in the physical passing. There is something about that great tree falling in the forest. So I just want to share a few reflections, and perhaps excuse me, invite you to share your reflections, both in the chat and later in the sharing together. And I want to begin just by, just with this archetype of a bodhisattva. The bodhisattva in the Buddhist tradition is a being of awakening, an awakening being, a being committed to their own awakening and the awakening of all beings. And Thich Nhat Hanh, was a bodhisattva. Just the way he lived, his life was the life of a bodhisattva. It was committed. There was no separation, as I see, really, between his own awakening, his own freedom, and the freedom of all beings. That the difference between that was like a thin, filament, almost like that it was all, that really I sense it really as all one. And bodhisattvas, people who live this kind of a life, and I don't mean just in the Buddhist tradition, but also others. I think of Dr. Martin Luther King as a very clear example of that, and leaders, teachers, Nelson Mandela, another. You might think Mother Teresa, many others, different other traditions as bodhisattvas. And one of the things I think the Bodhisattva does is kind of shows us how we can live a kind of a larger life, a selfless life, a life where, as with Thich Nhat Hanh, there's no separation between self and other. The great sage Milarepa, Tibetan sage, says, long accustomed to contemplating compassion, I have forgotten all difference between myself and others. I've forgotten all difference between myself and others. And the bodhisattva in that way, as somebody who has that commitment, that deep inner commitment to their own freedom and the freedom of all beings, that they kind of shine a light for us in terms of how we can live our own lives, to encourage us to live compassionately, to live with loving kindness, to live more selflessly. I remember something Archbishop Tutu, another bodhisattva, said about Nelson Mandela after he died. He said there was a feeling that the world was a better place because he'd lived. The world was a better place because he lived. And, I think of that in terms of, I love Nelson Mandela and his example. And thinking of Thich Nhat Hanh, of, the world is really a better place because he lived, and I think of it as almost like the sound of a bell. His life is his teachings. I shared in a mailing, it's something I sent out a couple of days ago. I sent a video 20-some minute video that friends shared with me of Thich Nhat Hanh talking to Brother David Steindl-Rast, another contemplative, monastic Christian tradition. And towards the end of that video, Thich Nhat Hanh, they were talking about, the time they spent with Martin Luther King, Dr. King, and Thich Nhat Hanh is sharing that he had said to Martin Luther King, "You are a living bodhisattva." And Thich Nhat Hanh, as he recounts it, said that Martin Luther King was very pleased by that, kind of very happy to be seen in that way as a living bodhisattva. And Thay, Thich Nhat Hanh, said, he was really happy that he shared that with Martin Luther King because that was the last time that they were together before Dr. King was assassinated. And I found that very, very moving. Those bodhisattvas, recognizing the good, and the compassion and the kindness and the love in another being. And Thich Nhat Hanh's kind of role, his place really as a bodhisattva, inspiring us in our practice, in our lives, kind of reminding us of our appointment with life, reminding us that only this moment is life, and the other thing I want to just touch on is just the simplicity of his practice. I can't really think of other teachers that are so simple in their practice, and yet the simplicity, runs all the way to the depth of the deepest teachings of the Dharma, the deepest teachings of the Buddha on dependent origination, on what Thich Nhat Hanh called interbeing, which is really the Buddhist teachings of emptiness, that nothing has a permanent self. Everything is arising out of causes and conditions. Your life, my life, is causes and conditions arising. There isn't a permanent self in all of this. That doesn't mean that our lives are unimportant or our actions are unimportant. To the contrary, they're incredibly important for the well-being and happiness of beings. But really the teachings, and this is the teachings of the Buddha, the teachings of the Dharma, are really that we can begin just by being aware of any aspect of our experience, of our body, our emotions, our feelings, our thoughts, our experiences of sounds and images, anything that we're aware of that comes in through our six senses, including the mind, can be the object of awareness, of mindfulness. And with that awareness, that mindfulness, that compassionate awareness can take us all the way to the deepest freedom from suffering. It can allow us to see the impermanence of all conditioned things, of all experience, to see that nothing can be held on to, and to see really deeply that there really isn't, we could look for a permanent self in all of this constellation, of consciousness and mental formations and body and, all of that. And we wouldn't be able to find a self in all of this, just as the neuroscientists are finding it difficult to find, who's in charge of all of this. It's causes and conditions coming and going. His teachings are so simple. They think, drink your tea slowly and reverently, as if it's the axis on which the whole earth revolves, slowly, evenly, without rushing toward the future. Live in this actual moment. Only this moment is life. He says, breathing in, I calm body and mind. Breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is the only moment. He had these lovely, probably more than most other teachers have these lovely kind of sayings, verses called gathas, that that kind of help us to be present. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I calm my mind. And they can be very powerful in helping us to be here, to keep our appointment with life. So I think Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings were really embodied in his life. I mean, anyone who sat with him, listened to him, watched him, even just watching him talk and walk, there's a slowness, there's a presence that, there's a kind of a deliberateness that is a recognition, really, I think, that in order to really be present, we have to take the time, we have to, one of my kind of slogans right now, I forget, that's more the Tibetan tradition of Lojong, is slow time down, if we don't slow time down, we tend to get pulled into that, the habit energy of our life, and often that takes us away from our experience, from here, from our appointment with life, takes us into the future. Think of stress. Stress is just habits of mind that we've cultivated through continued worry. Oh this, now this. So the mind is going out there, out, creating worse and worse scenarios. And so we really need to slow down, to be present, to be able to see things clearly, to untangle ourselves from the tangles that we get caught up in. And what can do that more than these just very simple: breathing in, know that you're breathing in. Drinking your tea, just being present for this taste, for this moment. My lemon ginger with honey. Cheers. One of the other things that stands out for me, it's kind of what I've talked already a little about, is Thich Nhat Hanh, Thay's, the non-separation between one's own life and the world, one's own practice, practice on the cushion, in meditation and in the world. I just, there's some beautiful reflections. He coined the term engaged Buddhism. In a way, for him, engaged Buddhism was a bit of an oxymoron, because for him, all Buddhism, all Dharma was necessarily engaged, but it was important in a tradition that wasn't always, hasn't always been, and maybe often hasn't been, engaged in the world. Has, if there's a leaning, it's often been a leaning towards, away from the world. And sometimes as the world is like, the world is kind of almost like a lesser thing, in terms of enlightenment and the possibilities of transcendence, the world and samsara, the suffering of the world is on another level. But that creates a dualism, and in Thich Nhat Hanh, that dualism really falls away, I think. and just some of the things he says. He said mindfulness must be engaged. Otherwise, what's the use of seeing? We must be aware of the real problems of the world. Then with mindfulness, we will know what to do and what not to do to be of help. So, in his own life, in really every aspect of his life in Vietnam, creating the school of youth for social service to, bring to support people in local villages with health care and education and infrastructure, as well as sharing the wisdom teachings. And when he was in exile, he worked in Thailand to help save people who were leaving Vietnam on the refugee boats. He speaks about that in his books. By the way, there's a lovely book that I just got in the last few days that came out just a few months before he died. It's called Zen and the Art of Saving the Planet, and it's really taking a lot of his many of his central teachings and some reflections on them, but mainly the teachings themselves, and really very focused on his engagement with the world, with the suffering of the world. He shared when he was in Vietnam during the war. He said when rural villages were being bombed in Vietnam, he said, along with my monastic brothers and sisters, I had to decide what to do. Should we continue to practice in our monasteries, or should we leave the meditation halls in order to help the people who were suffering under the bombs? After careful reflection, we decided to do both, to go out and help people, and to do so in mindfulness. We called it engaged Buddhism. So it was a reflection. You could probably see arguments for saying, well, if we cultivate metta, if we develop metta and loving kindness and compassion for those who are suffering, then, that will have, in some ways, will have an impact on, just the overall conditions in the country and in the world. But he felt very drawn towards that engagement, that there wasn't a separation between the meditation practice and engagement in the world. And he taught that if we were to have peace in the world, we have to cultivate peace in ourselves. That the roots of war don't lie in bombs and weapons, but rather in our own hearts, in the hearts and minds of human beings. And if we don't uproot the bombs and the weapons, in our own hearts, the wars will continue, because the conditions, the ignorance, the lack of seeing. He says the real enemy of man is not man. The real enemy is our ignorance, discrimination, fear, craving, and violence. So uprooting the weapons in our own heart, what in Buddhism is spoken about often as greed, hatred, and delusion. I think of it as the confusion that we have, that we look for happiness in the wrong places, and then we get wrapped up, we get tangled in suffering. We think my well-being is separate from your well-being. My happiness, what I have, what you have, threatens what I have in some way. We get into this untrue, unreal way of thinking that creates separation and the suffering that comes out of that. And then the cycle just continues and continues. And Thich Nhat Hanh really taught that it's our work, our role, to help untangle those tangles, to help us help ourselves free ourselves from suffering. And in freeing ourselves, we're at the same time we're freeing our own, freeing the world. As we cultivate peace in our own hearts, we cultivate peace in the world. What becomes clearer are the ways in which it's appropriate for us to help, and how we can engage in the world. And it will look different for all of us. It's not like we all should be out on the streets protesting, or that we all should be, doing this, or we should all be, helping in the refugee camps or whatever. Each of us will be called in different ways. And it's really for each of us to connect with our own hearts and say, how can I serve? How can I help? How can I make a difference? And for some, it might be going on retreat for 3 months, or a month, or a week, or a year, and it will look different for all of us. And it's not a should, we should do this, and it's not, because that's just another, as we know, that's just another form of dukkha, that sense, oh, I should, I'm bad not doing, or you should. But it's rather touching into that truth that we can know in our own heart what is wise action, what is wise speech, what is compassionate action. So, there's much more to share, to say, but I, in keeping with my intention today, to keep it more concise, I'll pause here. I'll invite, maybe just take a moment, take a minute, and pause. You can close your eyes if you like, and just notice what's here for you right now, what's present. Just holding whatever is here, meeting whatever is here with kindness, with compassion for yourself. Feeling your connection, all of us together, holding each other, supporting each other in our practice. So I invite Emily to lead us in some movement, and come into our bodies and mindfulness of our bodies.
Let me invite you all to just stand and feel the feet against the floor. And then open up, keeping your arms low, shifting from side to side, being gentle with yourself. We've been sitting a bit. And then if you'd like to, draw your arms up wider, expanding out. And then lift your arms up, expanding up. Exhale, drop your shoulders down, soften your elbows, and then grasp your left wrist in your right hand. Extend out to the right and exhale, tilt, drawing down towards the right. And lengthen up. Grasp your right wrist in the left hand and tilt over. Tilting. Opening up that right rib cage. And expand up. Float your arms down. Roll your shoulders independently, allowing your movement to be free, easy. Roll them the other way. And then turning your palms out, bring your arms up overhead and come down into cactus arms. Exhale, drop your arms down, keeping your elbows up, and inhale, rise. Exhale, lower. Inhale, rising up. Exhale, lower down. And rise and expand out and take a look at your left hand. Your right palm is down behind you. And then switch over to the right, to the left. Exhale, right. Last time to the left and to the right. And float your arms down, roll your shoulders together. And roll them the other way. Bring your shoulders up to your ears for a moment and soften them, lengthening them down. And then place your hands above your knees. Come into a flat back, shifting your hips slightly beyond your heels and expand, lengthen out. And then lower, dropping your head, dropping your shoulders, lowering down, exhaling. And being comfortable, you could always place your hands on your shins or even your knees to be steady and supported. Big inhale, exhale here. Exhale with a sigh. And then place your hands above your knees and roll up. Tuck your tailbone under, shifting your shoulders up. Exhale down. And then take a moment to just wave through the air like it was water, expanding and feeling the flow of your energy. Placing your hands alongside of your body, turn your palms up, drawing up to place your hands in prayer position above your head and become that center line, drawing the energy to your heart, your thumbs against your sternum, and take a bow. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you, Emily. Lovely. So coming back, what I'd like to do is do a little bit of a longer meditation than we've been doing for the second meditation. So if you have any questions, maybe put those in the chat, and if there's time at the end, or I could address them separately. So let's take some moments, some time now to just check back in. You might again just find a posture that's comfortable, relaxed. Just coming back for this appointment with yourself, with your appointment with life. So remembering just these very simple practices that can be quite powerful. Just the conscious deepening of the breath as a way to settle down into being here, being present, calming the body and the mind. and how the smile, consciously inviting a smile, can connect us with ourselves, our experience, and with others and with life. I've spent the morning teaching, and so feel very connected with all that we've been talking about and exploring. And so it's naturally a smile. And smile is a natural expression of kind of the feelings, just of all of us being together, being here in community, practicing together. So remembering the Buddha's reminder that all of spiritual life is sangha, is community. Keeping our heart open to everyone, to all of life, and not forgetting ourselves. Just having the resource of gratitude to come back to, to connect us with all that we have. That we have. And this very, very simple practice of meeting our breath wholeheartedly, just being here, breathing in and knowing that you're breathing in, breathing out, knowing that you're breathing out. So simple and yet not so easy, because we have so many ways that we escape, that we miss our appointment. You know, when we're worrying or when we're ruminating, when we get caught up in habits of neediness or of judgment. This moment we believe isn't enough, so the mind goes off. I need this, I want this, I don't like that, this is boring. So it's a training of the heart and the mind to keep coming back. This is from Thich Nhat Hanh. I will continue to be, but you have to be very careful to see me. I will be a flower or a leaf. I will be in those forms and send you a greeting. If you are aware enough, you will recognize me and you will be smiling at me. I will be very happy about it. This poem very much in the same spirit from another beloved teacher who's passed on, Mary Oliver, poem Wild Geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. Breathing in, caring for your own awakening heart. Breathing out, caring for all of us here together, practicing together. Breathing in, meeting yourself with kindness and compassion. Breathing out, meeting everyone, all beings, with care and kindness. Take your time coming back into the group. And the only other thing I would share is what I think everyone who's been here before, but if in case anyone is new, that there's no cost for these classes, no charge. But you're invited, if you're able to do so, to make a donation of what's called dana or generosity. It's how the teachings have come down to us through 25 centuries and help support me and my teaching, and in other classes, other teachers in their vocation. So thank you for your